It's good to have everybody here. So welcome everybody to the Positive Psychology in Action series. This is the second webinar with Diane Dreher. We had the Positive Psychology of Awareness last month, and tonight we've got the human-animal bond and positive psychology. So welcome everybody. A couple of housekeeping notes. Those of you who've been here before, you'll know the drill. We'd love to know your name, if that's not obvious, in your chat messages, your location, your course, how you're doing today, how you're feeling about this webinar. Just pop something in the chat if you haven't already. I can see quite a few faces popping up here. Not literally, I can see your names. Becky says, Mossy Dog wants to know when there is a positive psychology webinar on managing human behavior. That's wonderful, Becky. I love your sense of humor. Pets are welcome tonight. So you'll notice that you guys can see us, but we can't see you yet. We will hopefully get to see you in the Q&A. But for now, if you are sending chat messages, make sure that you're addressing everyone. We're going to move into Diane's presentation in a moment. She's going to speak for about 40 minutes. It might be longer. We'll see how it goes. She's got some exciting things planned for you. A couple of videos, a poll, loads of inspirational, informative, uplifting information too. So you're welcome to chat with one another throughout the presentation today. If you've got questions, please pop them in the Q&A box. We'll look at those during the break, and then after the break we'll be putting them to Diane and having a conversation about today's topic. During the break I will be upgrading you all to panelists, technology permitting, so hopefully that will let you through and you'll have the option to switch your videos on, unmute, join us in the conversation, and then we will wrap up around 9 p.m. UK time. So that's a lot of information from me. I'm going to move on to Diane. For those of you who haven't met her before or didn't come to the last webinar or catch up on it, Diane's our new visiting lecturer for the Academy. She's a positive psychology coach, teacher, researcher, author. That's the short version. She's got a PhD in Renaissance English literature from UCLA. She's got a distinguished teaching award from Santa Clara University. She's also the Associate Director of the Applied Spirituality Institute, and her research is exploring positive psychology convergence with Eastern philosophy, leadership, mindfulness, and hope. So a very warm welcome, Diane. It's good to have you here.
Well, thank you very much. I'm delighted to be here, and I can't wait to hear what people have to say about the human-animal bond.
I'm sure I'm not the only one who can't wait to hear what you have to say. So I'm really looking forward to this, and I know our students are too. So I am going to move on to the next slide for you, mute myself, stop my video, and when you're ready, let me know to switch the slides. So here we go.
Okay. So the human-animal bond, tonight, we'll be looking at these aspects of it, but our animal companions have been part of human life for thousands of years. And there are many, many benefits of the human-animal bond that positive psychology research has really yet to explore. We'll be looking today at attachment, the human-animal bond and attachment, our physical and emotional health, at specific kinds of human-animal bonds, service dogs, animal-assisted therapy, the companionship that our animal companions bring us and how that's good for our health in many ways, biological explanations for why this bond is so powerful, and finally, equine therapy. And I understand that there's some participants today who have experience with equine therapy, so I look forward to a discussion about that. We'll also be addressing Risa's questions of when, why, and how as much as possible. So Next slide, please. To put all this into a positive psychology perspective, 10 years ago, Martin Seligman described the 5 factors that enable us to flourish. PERMA, and I realize a lot of you know all about PERMA, positive emotions for P, E for engagement, R for relationships, M for meaning, and A for accomplishment. And Seligman, and it's up here on the slide, defined R, relationships, as there are people in my life who really care about me. Well, that's part of it. And most positive psychology research has focused on human relationships, including Barbara Fredrickson's research on micro moments of connectivity, which is really powerful research. She's found that the connections we make, not only with close family and friends, but our neighbors, the grocery store clerk, anyone else we see in daily life, just a simple smile, eye contact, presence, perhaps a kind word, just a fleeting connection. These connections benefit both people, dramatically improving our health, raising our mood, relieving stress, reducing inflammation, all of which promotes greater physical and emotional well-being. Now, these connections have been a lot harder to find with all the restrictions of the COVID pandemic and people wearing masks and not going outside and working remotely and all the rest. And there's research that shows that people are languishing because they lack a lot of this real powerful micro moment of connectivity connections. But as you've noticed, positive psychology research has relied primarily on quantitative research, which following Reese's good example, I will call quant research. Today, we'll be looking at the R in PERMA and how it also includes the animal companions, our relationships with the animals in our lives, and we'll be examining qual or qualitative research, which reveals the deeper meanings of the human-animal bond. So before we jump into other people's insights and research, let's include ourselves in this process. So we're going to have a poll about how many of us have experienced a special bond with an animal.
Okay, I'm just about to start this poll.
Good.
Clicking launch. And there we go. All right, so hopefully you guys can see the poll. It's just been launched. I can see some of you answering. Diane, can you see this too? The
Oh,
answers?
yes, thank you. Great.
Fantastic.
We don't seem to be able to answer it, but that's all right.
Well,
cannot vote.
we unfortunately as panelists aren't included.
Oh, well, no problem. You'll hear enough about my human-animal bond shortly.
Okay, we've got 11 out of 14, 78%, 85% of you. I mean, this is research in action as well as positive psychology in action. And we are almost there. 13 of 14 you have voted. Okay. Okay, one of you can't vote, no worries. Can you see the question? Have you felt a special bond with animals? You're welcome to pop that in the chat if you wish, if you can't participate. And if so, the next question is, if so, what animal? So pop that in the chat if you couldn't do the poll. But I'll hand back over to you, Diane.
Okay, so can we see the results of the poll? Is that possible?
Yep, I will read them out and then I'll end the poll and that should put them up for everybody. So 100% of voters have felt a special bond with animals. We've got animal lovers, I think, amongst us tonight. And in terms of the animals, 54% of you, that's 7 out of 13, said dog. 4 out of 13 or 31% said cat. 2 out of 13, 15% said horse. And let me check. Nobody said rabbit, elephant, lion, duck, pig, bird, or other. So that's everybody. Let me end the poll and hopefully you guys will get to see the results too. And here we go. Share the results.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
that's wonderful. Some of the chat comments are great too. Okay. So we'll be looking at what research has told us about what we've been experiencing. Dogs, birds, cats, horses, not about the lion. Nobody had a positive relationship with an elephant or a pig. Okay. But this reminds me actually of some of the research that's been done by Jane Goodall and how she formed this real bond of attachment with those chimps in Africa. And you know, again, there's a cross-species communication, which many of us have felt. Some of us have felt that our animal companions understand us better than some of the human beings in our lives. Well, we'll be looking at why this might be the case. Monkeys, horse, and a turtle. Okay. So let's see. We can put the poll down and go on to the back to the same old slide for a moment. Let's see. Okay. A baby jackdaw. Oh, somebody, Robin, saved a little bird. How delightful. Yeah. Now, neuroscience research has some explanation for some of what we've been experiencing. That humans and mammals, and probably some other animals too, we possess something called mirror neurons in our brains that reflect the feelings of those around us. So we experience vicariously what other people and what other animals are experiencing with our mirror neurons. And that expressing compassion for others, that what Robin expressed compassion for that little jackdaw, some animals have expressed compassion for us, for human beings. We have service dogs who can recognize the signs of PTSD in veterans in this country, in America. It's probably worldwide, and they can soothe them when they get anxious and distressed, so that these animals can tune into their owners, their human partners, if you will, on a journey of recovery and healing, and help those individuals who have been shell-shocked, wounded, injured, emotionally, physically, psychologically, can help them trust and heal once more by being there for them. There are also records of dolphins rescuing human beings who were drowning. And many of us have felt comforted by a beloved pet, a trusted companion in this human-animal bond. So next slide, please. You're going to get a little personal example. Okay. When I was 5 years old, yes, that's me, my family had a black Labrador retriever who's there in the background, named Cinder, and I loved her dearly. We lived in Louisville, Kentucky, and my father was a pilot, so he was up in the air and gone a lot of the time. And my mother enjoyed dressing me up, but after that, she was preoccupied with my baby brother and her own activities. So every day, my dog, Cinder, would watch over me. And every morning, my dog would walk me down the street and around the block to kindergarten, and then walk home again. And then every afternoon at 3 o'clock, Cinder could apparently tell time. She'd walk all the way back to the school to bring me home. So this dear dog was my loving companion, my guardian, and my best friend. But when my father was transferred to Washington, D.C. in the military, we had to move. So my parents gave Cinder, yes, away to a farmer outside Louisville, and we left her in Kentucky. No, there was nothing I could do about it, given the fact that I was just a small child. But as we were moving into our new home, our new house near Washington, D.C., my parents got a phone call from a neighbor back in Louisville. And Cinder had walked for miles back from the farm all the way to our house in Louisville. She was sitting on the front step waiting for us. But my parents left her in Kentucky. And I still feel sad when I remember. My poor dog must have been heartbroken, confused, and shocked. Where are my people? You know? We now know that for children, pets can often serve as attachment figures, fostering security, trust, and confidence. Attachments. Yeah, I know. I've got tears in my eyes too, the poor dog. Attachments provide a secure base and help us cope with life's stressors. And these characteristics have often been identified in human-animal relationships as well. They care about us. We care about them. There is this sacred bond. Next slide, please. Okay, here's another example. When I was 9 years old, living in California, I got a beagle puppy for Christmas and named him Happy. And when my father was transferred to the Philippines, again, we moved all the time, Happy went with us on a Navy ship to Manila. And every day on the ship, I would walk down to the kennel where the animals were kept, feed Happy, walk him around, clean up his little area. And we all disembarked in the Philippines, where my father was assigned to Clark Air Force Base, which is where I am right now in the picture. So 2 years later, when my dad was transferred back to the States, my parents sold Happy to a wealthy plantation owner who wanted to raise beagles. Again, today, however, people are much more aware of the bonds of loving compassion between people and their dogs. Qual research has revealed 3 major themes, and we've got references there in parentheses and a set of references at the end of all the slides. But the first reference calls the human-animal bond a sacred relationship, and that our dogs bring us a healing presence. And have studied that the studies have revealed that dogs have a calming effect on their owners, helping to console us when we're upset and bring us back to the present moment. In fact, in 2014, just a few years ago, Pope Francis told a little boy whose dog had died that our animal companions have souls and would be welcomed into heaven. So there's a lot of change and a lot of awareness in many people about the importance of the human-animal bond and about really how precious our animal companions are for us and to us. Next slide, please. Okay, so research has shown that the human-animal bond is good for our health. In terms of our physical health, pet ownership has been linked to, and again, this includes dogs, cats, rabbits, not just dogs, horses. Pet ownership has been linked to lower blood pressure, increased exercise, and stronger immunity. Why is that? something to be considered. Perhaps having an animal companion. Oh, yeah. Okay. Dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin. We'll be going into Reese is way ahead of my slides here. Yes. And actually, having an animal companion that we can trust relieves our stress. And of course, stress shuts down our immune system, increases inflammation, raises our blood pressure. So having a relief of all that stress and the sense of trust would make us physically healthier. Then we have our emotional health. Oh my gosh. And sometimes our animal companions can stress us out a little bit too, as we learned from the chat. Our emotional health, a University of Liverpool summary of Qual research has found that pets provide unconditional love and acceptance. And for those of you who have backgrounds in psychology, Carl Rogers' whole approach to psychotherapy was unconditional positive regard. That's what the therapist is at best providing for the person who comes to therapy. Someone who listens, someone who unconditionally loves and accepts that human being. And of course, our animal companions provide us with that. When I come home, no matter what's been going on, my dog is always glad to see me, you know. Unconditionally glad to see me. Amazing. So pets provide unconditional love and affection, foster self-acceptance, encourage people to stay in the present moment, avoid worry and rumination because they're there for us, we're there for them. People in the study, University of Liverpool study, said their pets relieved their anxiety and depression, provided a sense of purpose and trust. One woman said she could talk to her cat when she couldn't confide in any of the people that she knew. Another thing is that our animals never betray our secrets, you know. And when a young girl began crying, her dog would come and lie next to her, licking her face to comfort her. So that there are all kinds of really heartwarming examples in this Qual study of the human-animal bond and emotional health. So next slide, please. We'll be looking at specific kinds of human-animal bonds: service dogs, animal-assisted therapy, companionship, and the advantages of companionship, biological insights and explanations for why this bond is so powerful, and finally, equine therapy. So next slide, please. Okay, service dogs are trained to perform tasks for a person with a disability, including a physical, sensory, psychiatric, or intellectual disability. And this, of course, includes guide dogs for the blind, that's a pretty familiar service dog. Also mobility assistance for people with physical disabilities, which helps people develop greater trust and independence. This is a book that I really enjoyed. This heartwarming memoir called Intel Tuesday. American military veteran Captain Luis Carlos Montalvan writes about Tuesday, his service dog, this beautiful golden retriever, and this is the cover of the book, who helped him cope with PTSD and serious war injuries. Luis went after going through PTSD, you know, his leg was injured, he had traumatic brain injuries. He managed to recover. He went to Columbia University Journalism School. And when he graduated, he got a little cap and gown and put it on Tuesday. And they both went up and got their diplomas, or the diploma. But he wanted to acknowledge the fact that he would not have done that had it not been for Tuesday, this beautiful dog. So animal-assisted therapy. Next slide, please. Okay, there is animal-assisted therapy as opposed to service dogs or service animals who help people cope with their challenges and disabilities. Service dogs are trained to perform tasks for people with, physical, emotional disabilities. Animal-assisted therapy is more psychological, the deliberate inclusion of an animal in a treatment program, which includes therapy for people with physical, emotional, neurological, or psychiatric issues. And service animal-assisted therapy, can include dogs, cats, horses, dolphins, rabbits, and birds. Okay. There is a long history of animal-assisted therapy, of animals performing kind of therapeutic roles. In the 19th century, Florence Nightingale noticed that a bird could raise the mood of patients in a hospital room. Just made them happier watching the bird, listening to the bird sing. And then in the late 1940s, after World War II, American Dr. Charles Mayo, who later founded the Mayo Clinic, Dr. Mayo was a commanding officer of a New York military hospital. And he found that when he went on his rounds, his Yorkshire Terrier, Smokey, was so popular with the wounded soldiers that he took him every day when he made his rounds as a therapy dog for years, as the little dog somehow made people feel better. We now have therapy dogs in hospitals. Today, many hospitals provide therapy dogs to help, especially to help children recover from operations, therapy, various procedures, by reducing anxiety, stress, and loneliness. So these therapy dogs provide them additional joy, increased motivation, and they found that the children in the hospitals don't need as much pain medication when the therapy dogs come. They have improved function and quality of life. My friend Rosemary actually has a little miniature dachshund, and she brings him to an assisted living facility. Again, to visit with, it began with the mother of a friend who was in the assisted living facility, but now all of them welcome Cody when he makes his rounds. Again, just bringing them joy. And joy helps us emotionally, but also physically. So therapy dogs. We also have dogs in actual psychotherapy. Qual research, again, has found that having a friendly dog in a therapist's office can enhance the therapy, providing unconditional positive regard, Carl Rogers again, and a sense of greater comfort and trust and calm. In fact, a German study revealed that children with autism were more comfortable relating to dogs than to other human beings. So again, there is a real advantage of dogs and perhaps other animals in psychotherapy. There's also use of therapy dogs for chronic anxiety. And again, there are lots of research here. Like a couple of years ago, oh, fantastic. I have a student who has a therapy dog for chronic anxiety, and I wouldn't have found out about this had I not had to take my dog to class for a few weeks a couple of years ago. We were having a new roof put on our house, and people were up on the house banging and making all this noise, and my poor little dog was running around barking, and I just didn't have the heart to leave her at home with all that noise by herself. So I figured, okay, I'll take her to my Shakespeare class. And I thought, what are the students going to think? This is very unprofessional, having a dog in my Shakespeare class. They'll be distracted. They'll think it's a joke. No, actually, they were very focused. And they came to class and they all wanted to sit on the front row because because she was there by the lectern. And actually, the students were much happier in class with my dog Jenny there. And later, my one student, Julia, came to my office hours and said, you know, I suffer from anxiety attacks and I'd like to introduce you to my therapy dog. So she went and got Jack from her dormitory room, this little terrier, brought him to my office and said, Jack really helps me when I go back to my dorm room. You know, he keeps me company at night. He's always glad to see me, and he sits on my lap and licks my face whenever I'm feeling anxious and distressed, and that he was really helping her get through college. So therapy dogs for anxiety, yes. The last one, dogs, yeah. One of the chat comments, dogs are honest, animals are honest, and I wish more of our political leaders in my country were as honest as the dogs that I've known. Moving right along here, finally, reading support dogs. And here's a picture of Jenny, my little dog, with her head on a book. Research has shown that the presence of a calm, attentive dog when children are learning to read reduces their stress, improves their concentration, much more than having a supportive adult or even a friend. When the children are reading aloud, trying to sound out the words, and you know, it's stressful, they feel more comfortable doing it with a dog than with a person. And there have been programs where children read aloud to dogs and have gained 2 to 4 levels of reading proficiency in a very short time. And my local library, actually, before COVID, had a reading session for children who could come and read to dogs. And they had these very nice, calm golden retrievers who would just sit there and listen to them read. Why would reading to a dog help children learn to read better? You know, think about it. No judgment. Yes. And our last webinar together that some of us joined, we learned that when we're stressed, we go into something called the downstairs brain, you know, our survival, threat, fight or flight reaction. And yes, Alex, when we're stressed, our prefrontal cortex is offline. We're just reacting. We're trying to defend ourselves. We're nervous. And when we're that way, we can't learn because we're too busy trying to survive. So having a calming presence, a companion animal, a reading support dog, calms us down, helps us get access to the parts of our brain, the prefrontal cortex, the language centers that help us learn to read. So it's simply the calming effect and the presence that helps us relax, and we can learn better. So whatever, again, more research needs to be done on the why of reading support. They just have quant measures of reading proficiency before dog and then after dog. But, you know, the why, and, you know, to interview the children and say, you know, how do you feel? How does this help you? That would be interesting. Okay, next slide, please. Animals, I don't need to tell us, since we have 100% response on the poll, provide companionship and can prevent loneliness. Even before the COVID pandemic, countries around the world reported a major rise in loneliness. And social workers have found that a loving bond with a dog or cat, and here is our cat Tiger there looking at us, can bring lonely people comfort and support. improve their health, and restore their sense of hope. This has been especially important for older adults who often become isolated. Qual research, again, has shown that their pets bring them greater companionship, purpose, structure to their days. They need to get up, they need to feed their animal. If it's a dog, they need to take the dog out for a walk so they get exercise, they see their neighbors. They feel included in the larger community. They feel connected. We human beings need connection. Back to Barbara Fredrickson's research again. And our animal companions give us that vital sense of connection, trust, and calm. So in order to flourish, we all need connection. Next slide, please. So why and how does all this happen? There are biological explanations, which Reese actually anticipated in the chat. Research has shown, first of all, there's something called biophilia. Bio, life, philia, loving the, in this case, life in nature, the natural world. There are there's lots of research. This is only one reference about the healing effects of being close to nature. Not even walking in the woods, but a view of trees outside a hospital room. There's research that shows that patients who had abdominal surgery with a view of trees outside their window, and then they had the same patients who had the same surgery, the same doctors, the same nurses, the same hospital food, but their window looked out at a bare brick wall. Guess what? The patients with trees outside their windows needed less pain medication, recovered more quickly, and were released sooner than the people on the other side of the hallway who were looking out at the bare brick wall. So there is something to be said for our natural bond with nature, and that animals can bring us a sense of that. There's also, we've experienced it, I'm sure, if you've been looking at your computer for hours sitting inside, and if you step outside and breathe the fresh air, there's a sense of relief and release. There's also an explanation for why my dentist had an aquarium in his office. Why? Because research has shown that there's a calming effect of interacting with animals, and that viewing nature in the form of an aquarium with the fish back and forth helps reduce blood pressure, lessen anxiety, even for people undergoing dental surgery. So this dentist is very smart, okay? His patients feel better watching the fish. Biophilia. There also, again, there's this concept of mirror neurons, which reflect the feelings of those around us that help us connect. So biologically, yes, brain research. This is more quant research. Oxytocin is a hormone of love and trust released in both humans and animals during positive engagement. When we gaze at our dog or cat, for example, we feel oxytocin. And our animal companions also have more oxytocin, experience an oxytocin release when they're engaging positively with us. So it's a win-win, again, a connection that transcends our physical barriers and connects us. There's also something called shared coherence. Have you ever walked into a room and felt uplifted by the positive mood of the people around you? Or dragged down by the negative energy of the people in that room? We can feel the energies around us. And research at California's HeartMath Institute has shown that when we connect with other people, our heart rhythms become synchronized. They've also found that when we connect with our companion animals, this happens, and they've measured it. So next slide, please. Okay, so here's a graph showing the heart rhythms of 12-year-old Josh on the bottom there, and his dog Mabel, using portable heart rate variability recorders fitted on the boy and his dog. And as you notice, okay, first of all, they were in different rooms. And then that's the beginning, the first part. And then in the middle, Josh enters the room where Mabel is and, pets her and loves her. And, oh, wow. And then he leaves the room and you'll see her heart rate going up, like she's not happy that he's left her. But in the middle, look how consistent, how parallel their heart rhythms were. I mean, that's amazing. That goes on all the time. We just don't notice it because we're not hooked up to heart rate monitors. But the HeartMath Institute has also found a similar pattern with a girl and her horse, which brings us to the next section. Next slide, please. Okay, equine therapy, which is a type of animal-assisted therapy using horses that can help people with a range of behavioral problems, depression, addiction, and yeah. Horses can tell, of course, when we're nervous, our bodies tense up. So if you're on a horse and you're tense, the horse thinks there's a problem. Okay. So we're really, really close to our animal companions. So equine therapy is amazing. People who ordinarily shun physical and emotional closeness from people can often accept this from a horse and transfer their skills to their daily lives. They can develop greater understanding of themselves, of nature, and of their relationships. And they can develop a greater ability to communicate because they have this kind of natural, unspoken communication with the horse. And one study found that horses, just by their large, gentle presence, put people therapeutically in touch with their own sense of vitality. And here's our horse, Darlin, who's starring in this picture. So next slide, please. More about equine therapy. Equine therapy is often used for autism. We're going to have a couple of videos about that shortly. But here are some insights from a University of Liverpool Qual fieldwork study at an equine therapy center. And first of all, neurodiversity. Apparently, individuals with autism often report heightened sensory awareness and can get just overloaded and overwhelmed by stimuli. So the Equine Therapy Center was developed to be sensorially calm to enhance the calmness of the horse, because horses are also highly sensitive to novel stimuli. Our horse, Darlin, if there's some abrupt noise or movement, she gets very nervous, okay? So again, calming presence is really important. And that was part of the philosophy of this center for both the horses and the people. Horses communicate in ways attuned for autistic interaction. The horse never wants eye contact. And so there's no pressure, no sense of being stared at by another being. The horse just is present. Equine therapy involves the dynamic attunement, it's been called, of horses, and in this case, riders, staff, and physical environment. and that the embodied interaction and the rhythms of the horse and rider can create a bond of trust. There's a sense of oneness that happens, a sense of relaxation into that oneness. So that at this center, the patients and the staff often point to breakthrough moments when autistic children would calm down and start talking while riding the horse. And they'd go on to develop greater agency and confidence. Amazing, isn't it? You know, our animals, we need each other. Our animals and and humans need animals. Animals apparently, many animals at least, need humans. So next slide, please. More about this. So here is an example which could be seen perhaps as a case study. One individual, the horse boy. When Rupert Isaacson and Kristen Neff's son Rowan, yes, that Kristen Neff, was diagnosed with autism at age 2.5, his tantrums, lack of communication, just misery and obsessive behavior left his parents feeling devastated and distressed. They were afraid they'd never be able to get through to him. And yes, a lot of compassion, but there was more that was needed. So here's Rowan and Rupert, his father, on horses. But that was after the horse boy developed the ability to connect. And here we have a video of what Kristen, Rupert, and Rowan discovered from horses. So, video, please.
Okay, I'm just going to exit this screen and set up the video. Just a moment. I will get hopefully the correct one. I think I've got it. And I'm sharing the sound. So everybody, I hope you can hear this. And let's get the chat up so I can see. If people can't write, I'm about to press play and blow up the screen.
April 2004, my son Rowan was diagnosed with autism. The feeling was like being hit across the face with a baseball bat. Our lives became clogged under a mountain of conflicting information on the disorder. We tried everything. He didn't speak to us. One day, he ran away from me and ran right up to a horse called Betsy. The moment I put Rowan on Betsy's back, he began to speak.
He's a nice horse.
As Rowan began to open up to me for the first time, a light bulb went on in my head. Was there a place on Earth that combined healing with horses? Mongolia. This is a story about how, as a family, we did something crazy. How we ended up going halfway across the world in search of a miracle.
I think it wasn't exactly Ron's vision of Mongolia.
We're going to go up a several thousand-foot mountain and perform a 4-hour ritual with shamans. Isn't that what all families do? Sometimes I think he's like leaping forward, and sometimes it's like he's totally regressing. I couldn't help wondering, did I really have his best interest at heart here?
I don't know how useful it is to think of us as normal and Rowan as the sick one.
And then something happened. Rowan began laughing, giggling. We were together again as a family. His autism forced me to listen to what interested him above all else. We're onto something good here.
Okay, so I believe I should share the next video.
Okay, the next video is Rowan as a teenager who is academically advanced for his age, self-aware, articulate, and confident. And there are a number of videos, but he's just sort of talking off, kind of off the cuff here, but just to show you how far he's come from that really distressed little boy.
Okay, just a second. For some reason, my videos. Hold on. Okay, can anybody hear what I'm hearing?
Yes, there's something in the background.
Yeah, sorry about that. For some reason, the video keeps playing, but it has. Let me see if I can. Sorry about this, Diane. I haven't actually got this open on my, here we go. It stayed on the screen, but I've managed to get rid of that one. Let me just get the other video link up.
Oh, that's happened to me.
Yeah.
Even out here in the Silicon Valley.
Okay, let's just get this one up. So it is Rowan. Let me see. Sorry, everybody. Okay. Let's get this one up again. All right, I'm just about to share the video. Bear with me. Here we go. Okay, I've got the sound. Here we go. And
there's Rowan.
What about sitting at tables and doing therapy and learning that sort of way for autistic people? Should they do that?
No.
What should they do?
They should move around.
Why should they move?
It helps. We autists find it difficult to sit still for a prolonged period of time. So it's easier for us to move around and learn better from it, like being out in nature.
all right, that was a quick clip. Let me get your slides back, Diane.
Okay, it's just nice to, so, when we're going to go to the movies.
Sorry about this, Diane. For some reason, my computer is playing up. Let me just. And I think this is what I need to be doing, closing that.
Yeah.
And then here we go, back to your slides.
Okay, so thank you, Claire, for navigating the challenges of communicating two videos. The first video is from obviously a film, The Horse Boy. Rupert Isaacson wrote a book called The Horse Boy as well. And the second short video clip, I really appreciated being able to show, even though it was very short, to show, okay, Rowan is very self-aware, articulate and confident. He knows what works best for him and he claims it. So again, it's heartwarming to see how far he's come from that earlier video. And there's the bottom link here is not a video, but it's to a website. For those of you who'd like to get the slides and follow up on this, Rupert Isaacson has developed the Horse Boy method, his approach to equine therapy, and he shared it with autistic children in 20 countries around the world. So, I welcome those of you who'd like to follow up on this link later. But for now, next slide, please. We have some closing thoughts on the human-animal bond. The painting on the right was painted by a dog named Arctic in a project by the National Humane Education Society in America. I don't know how the dog did this and whether he had some help, but I thought it was very fitting, with this heart-centered approach to the human-animal bond. we've seen in this brief review of research that how our animal companions can help us flourish in so many ways. And the R relationship with them, the R in PERMA, I believe can lead to the rest of PERMA. Positive emotions, right? Engagement. We are there in the present moment with our companions. We find a sense of meaning and purpose. And that can lead us to accomplishment. So central to PERMA, I believe, is that human-animal bond, at least for very many of us. So this leaves us with a question. How can we include the human-animal bond in our ongoing positive psychology research and our work as positive psychology coaches, trainers, organizational facilitators? How can we acknowledge this powerful part of what helps us flourish? So that is the question I would like to leave us with as we then take our break. And we have, again, for those of you who are interested in following up, there are 3 slides with references at the end. Oh. Thank you, Becky. Thank you, Robin. Yay. I can't wait to see what people have to say in the Q&A.
Thank you very much, Diane, for that. That was incredibly thought-provoking, heartwarming. I know a few of you in the room today were shedding tears. I was getting a little bit emotional at times. We are going to take a 5-minute break. We'll mute ourselves, stop the videos, go and get yourselves a cup of tea, get yourself sorted, come back for the Q&A. I'll be upgrading you to panelists, so fingers crossed for technology. I'll do my best to get you upgraded, and we will see you in 5 minutes. So in the UK, that will be 5 minutes past 8 p.m. So see you guys soon.